Today, I'm going to talk about the top 10 fall Chinook fishing baits so you can catch that big king salmon. What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now, fall salmon fishing is one of my favorite times of the year, but with fall Chinook salmon fishing, some days they'll just bite any bait you throw out there, and other days they're a lot pickier. They got lockjaw and nothing is going to work. Now, when it comes to baits for catching fall Chinook, some are really good, some are great, and some are dynamite. And so we're going to go through that list, and we're starting out at number 10. Now, kicking off the list at number 10 is gonna be spoons. Now, this isn't something that everybody thinks about to throw and cast first when it comes to fall Chinook, but it is a underrated bait for a lot of reasons. First, with spoons, you've got that tail and whipping action, whether you're casting it in or you're trolling with those spoons. A lot of times when we think about fall Chinook salmon fishing, we're always thinking about spinners or other baits that we want to troll behind 360 or triangle or even Leo flashers, but spoons typically isn't one of them. And I would say you got to start putting spoons in the arsenal and in your tackle box when it comes to fall Chinook salmon fishing. And one pro tip with spoons, make sure you got a lot of chromy colors. I'm talking about silver, I'm talking about bronze, I'm talking about gold and copper. Mix in a little bit of orange, maybe some chartreuse, some half and halves in those spoons in there. Again, you don't have to play around with too many crazy color options with spoons. Just get something out there, get that spoon-like action, and the fall Chinook should go absolutely crazy for spoons. And when it came to fall salmon fishing with spoons, my grandfather always said if you didn't get bites on them, you should just put a fork in them and go pick something else out of the tackle box. Now, coming in at bait number 9 is gonna be anchovies. And this is a great one also for coho salmon, but in particular fall Chinook salmon. Again, it's a really live bait. Anchovies are long and you can get kind of a twirl spin on those anchovies that brings something a little bit different of a presentation. And as salmon are feeding up and gorging themselves to get up the rivers and go to the spawning grounds, whether it's herring or other baits, anchovies is one of those baits they absolutely will go munch on. And it's great because it is real bait. Now, rigging anchovies is not that complex. And once you get the right twirl, once you've done it a few times and get it under your belt, it becomes like clockwork, and it is one of the best baits when it comes to fall fishing to go catch those big Chinook. Now, coming in at bait number 8 is gonna be plugs, and I love plug fishing, especially in tributaries and smaller river systems for fall Chinook. Now, one of the best things I've ever seen is somebody on the oars in a drift boat backing a plug down a small tributary river and seeing this massive 4.0 maglib absolutely get smoked where the rod is just bending over. And a couple tips with the plugs is, one, you can add scent to them, especially on the belly side of the plugs. The other thing you can do is you can scent wrap plugs with a little herring strip or a piece of bait, even some tuna or a coon shrimp. But adding some bait and adding scent to those plugs, you got a deadly combination where you got motion, you got scent, and you got sound. You want to get out there, fish some smaller river systems, get a plug, and absolutely just watch the fish hammer and smoke those plugs. Now, coming in at bait number 7 is gonna be hoochies, and it's one of those baits that just works in all different bodies and conditions of water, right? You're talking about the ocean, in the bays, rivers, wherever you're fishing, hoochies play a critical role for a couple reasons. One, they come in a lot of different colors, a lot of different shapes, a lot of different sizes, and in the water, you get the tentacles of the hoochies that are flaring in and out, and that's great. You want that action and motion parted on those baits, and especially behind 360 flashes where it's moving that hoochie around a bunch, your tentacles are gonna be moving kind of everywhere, and that's gonna get the fish's attention and really scream that it looks like it's gonna look like an injured bait and just a bunch of chaos and motion, and that's when you're gonna get those big strikes from the fish. Now, salmon love hoochies so much, I'm thinking I should make myself a hoochie hat when I go salmon fishing. I'll definitely get their attention and the bite if I do that. Now, coming in at bait number 6 is twitching jigs and jigs. We're kind of combining jigs into one category. And let's talk about first about twitching jigs. Now, when it comes to coho, twitching jigs is one of the best baits out there, but you can also catch fall Chinook with twitching jigs. Again, bigger sizes, smaller sizes. You got just a presentation where there's a lot of movement in the water. You can add some water soluble scents to the twitching jigs, and where the salmon are more pooled up farther up the river systems in the deeper water as they're making their way up to the spawning grounds. This is where using a twitching jig or even jigs under a bobber, where you can very scriptively target those fall Chinook in specific bodies and pockets of water. So as you're heading to the river, thinking about baits to fish for fall Chinook, make sure that twitching jigs and jigs are in your tackle box. Now coming in at bait number 5 is shrimp. Now when it comes to fall Chinook, shrimp is one of those great versatile baits. Now salmon in general, when they go out to the ocean, they're feeding up on all kinds of fish, but they're also feeding on shrimp as well, whether it's coho or Chinook salmon. I would say that shrimp aren't underrated or undervalued. I would say when they're used properly as a bait, whether it's behind a spin and glow, whether you're adding one to say a plug, or you're adding one to the back of a spinner, you're adding some real bait there, or you're just fishing the coon shrimp or a shrimp just naked, say behind a weight. And whatever technique that you're gonna employ by using shrimp, shrimp just gets it done. Shrimp is just a bait you can fish in all kinds of conditions, no matter what, and at all times of the season, I would say. Now coming in at bait number 4 is herring. And again, this is a real bait like anchovies or shrimp that work really well for fall Chinook. And there's a couple different ways and ideas that you want to rig your herring for fall Chinook. One is just doing a cut plug herring. You cut the head off, you make sure there's an angle so it twirls nicely and has that kind of that herring twirl in the water. But also don't overlook fishing with whole herring for fall Chinook. Again, especially closer to the ocean, those fish are feeding up and they're gorging themselves to get on that journey to go up the river system to the river or the location that they're going to spawn. And so not only is a cut plug a great way to use, but using a whole herring sometimes can be just the better ticket. You got a bigger profile, a bigger piece of meat, an extra scent out there, and sometimes that's just what the Chinook want. That's why for me, it makes this high up on the list and why it's an important bait that you should have with you for fall fishing. Now coming in at bait number 3 is going to be eggs. And this is something that I've started to get a little bit better at and started to really amplify my experience and messing around with different types of eggs and cures and scents and the way to present eggs for fall Chinook. In particular, the best technique to catch fall Chinook with eggs is underneath a bobber. You got a big, say 5/0 hook, you got an egg loop, you just got a glob of eggs that fully encompasses the hook, and you get that bait underneath the bobber and you're just kind of floating along. And this is a great technique for slow moving water in tributaries or in just kind of slacky water within river systems. This is one of the best baits to use because again, it's slowly going through the water. You get a big chunk, and especially in bigger pools where those fish are hung up or hanging out, this could be one of the most dangerous baits to use because every cast, you may get a bobber down and a fish on every single cast if you get the right egg consistency and the right scent, or the fish just want eggs and you get that bait in the right position, you may have one of the most epic days of fishing possible. Definitely make sure you got some jars when you go to the river and take multiple jars because again, different scents, different glows. The salmon might like one thing or another, so have multiple different options and varieties, and then you'll be ready for some awesome bobber downs and potentially some really big tributary fish. Now coming in at bait number 2 for fall Chinook is stuffer baits. And now when it comes to stuffer baits, we're talking about the spinning fish, the Yakima cut plug, Brads, and even Hawken brand cut plugs that are out on the market. This will be one of the fastest growing categories for baits out there for a few reasons. One, they're deadly effective and work a lot on fall Chinook. Secondly, you can stuff bait and scent in them, so they're great. Thirdly, if a fish hits it and misses the bait, oh darn, you're still fishing because that thing still has bait and scent in it. You might get bit again right away. I've seen it a lot happen with stuffer baits. So if one fish misses it or that fish misses it, it may come back again. And that's great in the versatility of that bait because you're not having to use real bait and go through, say, a whole tray of herring or a whole jar of eggs. You fish that hardware out there, you stuff it with some scent and bait, and you can keep fishing it for hours and hours, pass after pass. If you're going out to troll for salmon, you have to have stuffer baits with you on boat. Now that we've gone through the list of 10 through 2 baits for fall Chinook, well, what's number 1? Well, you should have guessed it. It's pretty obvious by now, and that is spinners. Spinners are just very versatile. Again, you can troll with them in the ocean, the rivers, the bays. You can cast them from shore. It's a great way, especially to get kids into fishing for the first time, to go catch a salmon. Casting spinners is easy. They're super effective and deadly. Spinners come in all shapes, all sizes. There's plenty of brands and varieties out there, and they're super versatile. And for me, they just catch fall Chinook everywhere. And that's why they're the number 1 bait to go catch fall Chinook. And there you guys have it, the top 10 fall Chinook fishing baits. Hope you got some great information and some tips from today's video. Now get out there, do some fall Chinook fishing and get ready for some big takedowns and some big fish. And if you're looking for some additional fall Chinook fishing content or tips videos, I've got some content right here that'll be absolutely perfect to help you get even better and be ready to hit the water and go catch some big fall Chinook. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, if you ain't losing gear, you ain't fishing.